For a guy with only one estranged son, Brian sure does have quite a bit of parenting experience under his collar. So let's take a look at the best and worst instances of Brian trying to be a parent. And there's no better place to start than the episode The Former Life of Brian, which revealed that Brian has a teenage son who he actually manages to turn around for the better.
Brian, this is Dylan. He's your son.
So when Brian goes to reconnect with an old flame, he finds her in a pretty sorry state of affairs. Once you're rejected romantically by a dog, there really is no bouncing back, I guess. But what's more shocking is the fact that she had Brian's son. I'd vouch for that DNA check though. Kid looks nothing like him. He doesn't even look like his tongue could get anywhere near his crotch.
I've wanted you to meet Dylan for a long time, Brian.
Well, Brian, a son, how about that?
And to no one's surprise, the kid of a deadbeat dog doesn't exactly want to have any kind of worthwhile relationship with him. He did pick up Brian's chain smoking though. Some things you can just feel calling to you from across the galaxy.
So, Dylan, shouldn't you be in school?
I don't know.
It's Wednesday.
Up yours!
Who needs school anyway? Did they have the answer as to why a 7-year-old dog has a 13-year-old son? I don't think so. Be sure to bring that up next time your teacher suggests stupid things like homework and preparing for your future. But while Brian doesn't seem like he'll have to deal with it much longer, Dylan is quickly forced upon him by his baby mama.
My mom wanted me to give you this.
To Brian from Tracy. He's your problem now.
Is there an opposite of joint custody where neither of the parents end up getting the kid? That probably seems like the most desirable outcome at this point. But even though he really wants to, Brian just can't put his son out on the street, so he decides to try to acclimate him to the family.
And this is Chris. Chris, this is my son, Dylan.
Hi, Dylan! All this stuff in here is mine now.
Ah, he's enacting British colonialism rules. A tradition as old as time. Unfortunately, a nice roof over his head and all this new free stuff isn't enough to make Dylan any happier. But he's mature enough to voice his frustrations to others.
I hate you all! I didn't ask to be born! If I had a gun, I would kill you all!
Teens are so dramatic. Just wait until you learn about taxes. That'll really make you a fan of the Second Amendment. But Brian's doing his best to keep an eye on Dylan. Well, not an eye, but an ear. I don't know who thought it'd be a good idea to put the troubled teen in the same room as the baby, but the one who's in danger is not who you may think.
You're weird. Yeah, and you're attractive. Now take your f***ing pants off!
But Dylan ends up sowing so much chaos in the house that Brian's finally motivated to step in and do some tough parenting. About time. I would have thought a raging alcoholic wouldn't have been so timid about discipline.
I think it's best if you just get out of this house.
Fine, I hate it here anyhow!
But it turns out there is one thing that can bring these bickering family members together. A little lady named Mary Jane. She's the one who I'm pretty sure sold Dylan that dope.
I'm sorry I wasn't around when you were growing up.
Don't. Just don't.
Finally, these two have made it onto the same page. See what a little bit of THC can do for a relationship? It worked with Dylan and Brian, it worked with Stewie and Lois. Maybe if Chris and Herbert would finally light up, it would fix their very weird relationship. But it's this inebriated moment that finally makes Brian see the light and come around to the prospect of being a parent.
Was somebody looking for a son with a bright new path to adulthood and his very, very proud dad?
Not really, but I'm sure I could squeeze in some room in my calendar for it. Amazing what a haircut and a polo shirt can do for somebody. So to Brian's credit, he really does seem to turn Dylan's life around. It's too bad that in doing so, Brian has somehow become more insufferable.
Until you have a child, you do not understand.
I mean, you're talking to a guy who's fathered enough children to populate a small island. Do you have to care about them to better understand? We probably all have known a parent like this, and it's a wonder their kids even come out slightly normal.
Lois, I do not want Dylan eating white bread.
Brian, I promise you, it's fine.
Lois.
Yeah, that's enough of that, so Peter gets Tracy to come and get her kid. Brian doesn't want Dylan to leave, but his son realizes that he has the potential to do the same thing to his mom that Brian did to him. And with that, Dylan walks out of his life, because I guess cell phones, Facebook, and email weren't all the rage yet. Kinda feels like Brian was secretly happy to have one less mouth to feed, especially when he doesn't even feed his own. And so Brian pretty much remains out of Dylan's life for years, but as soon as he finds out that his son has landed a role in a new television show and Brian's a bad father, Brian can't wait to rekindle their relationship.
Oh, crap. It's Dylan. Dylan? Your son? I haven't heard you mention him in ages.
Yeah, so it turns out that not only did Dylan exit Brian's life, Brian's also kind of made it his mission to make sure he never re-enters it. Dylan didn't just dodge a bullet with this guy, he dodged a gigantic bonsai bullet. But good guy Stewie isn't content with Brian just avoiding his son's life.
Hey, if I click ignore, will he know that I'm sending him to voicemail? Hey, Dylan! Hey, it's Stewie!
Some parents just gotta be dragged kicking and screaming through parenthood. It's a great system we have here, forcing people to be parents who aren't cut out for it. Don't foresee that having any negative effects on society. So Brian tries to worm his way out of meeting with his son when he happens to be in town.
When are you getting here?
Tuesday.
Oh, don't say Tuesday. I'm out at the project all day.
Oh yeah, I've heard of the project. It's that new bar over in downtown. Brian's pretty much there from open to close, so there's probably no way he can meet up with Dylan. Thankfully, good pal Stewie pretty much backs Brian up into a corner and convinces the dog to cave and meet with his son. Pulling teeth sounds like it would have been less arduous. And of course, Brian tries to bail at the last minute.
I haven't seen him in years, and at this point, I just don't see what could possibly be gained from me getting together with him.
A rekindled relationship with your flesh and blood, perhaps? Nah, that can't be monetized. But it's not a matter of what Dylan can gain, it's what Brian can gain. After all, the only way to make it in show business is by knowing someone. It's how I landed this gig, by knowing Sir Anthony Hopkins.
The show, set and filmed right here in Rhode Island, stars local teen and Irish trash Dylan Flanagan.
Finally, something that makes this parenting thing all worth it. So since Dylan is going to be appearing on a television show, that means Brian can try to nudge Dylan to maybe put in a good word for him.
I've barely seen you in the past few years.
So what better way to reconnect than by working together every day?
Come on, you don't even want to try the half-hearted round of catch first? That's like the bread and butter of sons and fathers connecting. But poor naive Dylan gets Brian a writing room job on his show, and he manages to ruin it in record time.
Sometimes I just want to put this gun in my mouth.
Cut! Your line is, "That's right, Cameron."
Ah, I see. So Brian's trying to make this one of those kids shows that fans swear have way more adult themes than you think, and then you gotta stop talking to those people because you realize all they watch is shows for children. Thankfully, it doesn't take long for Dylan to see through Brian's thinly veiled facade.
I'm starting to think that you've just been using me to advance your career. God, you're a terrible father.
Oh, Dylan, you're a good kid, just not a very smart one. Should have seen this coming from a mile away. So now Dylan actually kicks Brian out of his life, and instead of apologizing or trying to make things right, Brian just does what he does best.
What the hell are you drinking? Is that Rite Aid brand whiskey?
A whiskey so bottom shelf that the shelf is underground. Brian really wants to make things up to Dylan, but now that he's banned from the set, Stewie decides to dust off a classic wardrobe to extend the message to Dylan.
Isn't taking a risk better than not having a dad?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, not right enough, because this is the last time we actually see Dylan. Probably for the best, as now that he's a child actor, he's got so many things that will stand to ruin his life. A deadbeat dad doesn't need to be one of them. But even though we never really get to see Dylan again, that hasn't stopped multiple characters from bringing him up to dunk on Brian, like Stewie does in Quagmire's mom.
Seems kind of cowardly to blame someone else for your problems.
Brian abandoned his own son, by the way.
Well, I wouldn't say abandoned is the right word. Screwed up so many times that it literally convinced your son to go no contact is probably the better way to sum things up. But wanting nothing to do with their kids is something Brian and Quagmire should be bonding over. Those two really are more alike than they'd probably ever want to admit. But of course, Quagmire would often hang Brian's neglect of his kid over his head whenever he got the chance, like in Must Love Dogs, even though Quagmire's in the same boat as him.
I mean, you're just gonna bail and leave her in the dust?
Hey, how's your son, Brian?
Whoa!
It really is the kind of ace up your sleeve you want to have on a person. Anytime they speak up or try to get a little mouthy, you have that line in your pocket to hit them with. Again, it doesn't mean much coming from a guy like Quagmire, who probably has 100 kids running around out there. Doesn't technically make any of what he's saying wrong, though. But it seems like Brian must have some knowledge of Dylan and how he's doing, as he surprisingly does have an answer when Stewie questions him about it in Snapple Decision.
Dylan, right? Your son? He good?
Most deaf. Most deaf.
And that pretty much tells you all you really need to know. He is most definitely good, which I'm assuming means Brian at least knows that his son is alive. Then again, maybe not. This is the punishment that comes with trying to do small talk. People ask you whether or not your child is alive or dead just so the silence can be filled. So performative. But despite Dylan being Brian's only legitimate son, that hasn't stopped Brian from playing the role of father to others, like when he dated a woman with a young son in Boy's Best Friend.
Holly.
Holly, are you free on Friday night?
Well, I don't know. Are you a shoe store murderer?
No.
A bit sluggish on the draw there, Brian. They really shouldn't joke about that, though. That is a very real thing. Did you know the Zodiac Killer started murdering all because he couldn't get a pair of Air Jordans? But Holly does agree to go out on a date with Brian, and the two have a grand, drunken time full of karaoke, booze, and intense licking.
Oh, yeah, that's good kiss baloney.
Dang, drenching them in your saliva is usually a second date thing. Things must be really getting serious between those two. But when it comes time for that second date, Brian tries to make a great second impression by showing up at her house with flowers, only for someone of much shorter stature to open the door.
You must be the new jerk my mom is dating.
And you must be the kid she never told me about.
An apt description from both sides. But I guess I understand why Holly never brought him up. You can't just be hot, conversational, and a joy to be around anymore. You also gotta be without a child. But it's not like Brian isn't used to hanging around kids. He's practically the sidekick of one, but that's a fun fact better left off the Tinder profile.
I actually have a kid.
Oh, that's sweet. How old is he?
I don't know. How long ago was Ratatouille?
Believe me, lady, there's no number he could give that would make him having a kid any weirder. Although she might be happy to learn that dog DNA doesn't really seem to come through as strongly in human hybrids as you'd think. Something to consider, I suppose.
What grade are you in, bud?
Second?
You don't say. Boy, I bet things are different than they were in my day.
I'd assume maybe you'd be seeing fewer animals in the schools, but I don't think that's really the case. So Brian doesn't immediately make the best first impression on little Kyle here, but he's already been saddled with doing his school projects for him, so I'd say that's one step towards being considered a dad.
We're supposed to be making this Pinewood Derby car together.
I don't care.
Well, you're gonna start caring when you start being bullied for, honestly, anything. There's an age where kids just have incredible amounts of evil in their hearts and will bully you from pretty much anything. Luckily, Brian is more dog than he is man, which makes it okay for him to pounce and start chewing on the bullies.
You're crazy!
You leave him alone!
Most parents would just face jail time for doing that, but dogs will straight up be put down. Brian risked it all just for this kid he barely knows. Dylan would be mad to find that out. So it finally seems like the two are forming a good, healthy relationship. Time to throw all of that in the trash.
Brian, I'm still young.
She's saying you're not.
And the truth is, I'd like to date other people.
Wow, a girl breaking up with Brian through no real fault of his own. First time for everything, I suppose. But the only thing that stings worse than not dating Holly is not being able to see Kyle again.
We'd formed a real connection, and I sort of liked being a father figure to him.
That's sweet and all, but we've got to get this guy some more friends his age. He took his relationship with Stewie and pretty much figured he can only hang around children. A slippery slope that mindset is, my friend. But just because Holly and Brian aren't together doesn't mean Brian can't see Kyle anymore. Well, actually, that's kind of what it means. But that won't stop Brian from going to see him at his Boy Scout event. Are you really surprised the Boy Scouts of all people are just letting random adult men be around children?
Thank you, Brian. It was sweet of you to come.
But maybe there's a socially acceptable arrangement that can be made. Nothing says Brian can't be Kyle's new babysitter, as far as I know. Can dogs technically count as guardians?
Cliff and I should be back by midnight. I left money for you two to order a pizza.
Sounds perfect.
So Brian actually did a good thing with this kid, being more of a fatherly figure to him than he's been with his own son in years. Count your days, Kyle. Dylan doesn't want him, but if he can't have Brian by choice, then nobody can. That boy still has a bit of the street in him. Just you wait and see. But sometimes Brian's fatherly efforts are a bit unwanted, especially when your kid is several decades older than you, which is exactly what happens when Brian comes close to being Quagmire's newest stepdad in Bryda.
It's difficult to watch your son embarrass himself so publicly.
Yeah, that parent-child relationship is so special.
Or so Brian has heard. He doesn't exactly have the most well-known track record with that kind of stuff, and Ida should have clocked that he was full of crap as soon as he started talking about it.
How's your son, Brian?
We don't talk, but Ida, you can't blame yourself.
No, if you want a good example of someone you can blame, Brian's the finest specimen you'll find. But Brian happens to say just the right amount of superficial self-help BS that Ida thinks she might actually be falling for him all over again. Gotta up those standards, girl. They say men are dogs, but that doesn't mean you gotta go so literal with your love life.
I have some pretty big news. It may come as a surprise, but
It's about Ida, isn't it?
Yeah, so Brian and Ida decide to become official, and the decision is accepted by the family because it probably makes sense to put two people they find annoying together. It's the smartest part of matchmaking because you can kill two annoying birds with one stone by just getting them to date. But the Griffins weren't the one they needed approval from.
Now the only other person we have to tell about us is Glenn.
oh god, I haven't even thought about that.
Really? That's like the one waking nightmare that'd be hanging over my head the entire time. Public ridicule is one thing, but the backlash from your mortal enemy? This train's about to crash before it's ever even left the station.
Brian and I are in love.
What? When were you gonna tell me this?
I don't know, does whichever one of your funerals happens first sound good? But it's probably good to get this stuff out in the open early, not that it means Quagmire's gonna like it. But to Brian's credit, he is making somewhat of an effort.
Get ready for eggs a la Brian. Scrambled eggs with a side of toast.
What? How was that a la Brian?
You just wouldn't get it unless you were a true food connoisseur. It's bold food experiments like this that are keeping the art form alive. But Brian doesn't just want to date Quagmire's parents, he wants to actually be there for him as a friend too. Dragging his bare butt through a field of broken glass sounds less painful, but Quagmire's at least willing to give him a chance at the behest of Ida.
Brian thought you two could hang out this afternoon, and I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, Quagmire, what do you say?
I don't think they air what Quagmire wants to say without censorship, but we'll just take his skin crawling as a yes. But the downside to this is being treated as Brian's new stepson, which is a weird thing to force on a 60-year-old man.
All right, we're gonna destroy those kids.
Oh, someone's on the wrong team. Boy, they're in such a hurry not to be kids anymore.
And what makes it worse is that the other adults start to treat Quagmire like he's a kid too. He didn't have a chance with his friends' wives before, but now they're definitely not going to want to hypothetically sleep with him.
You're very sweet to do that.
To do what? I'm the one who scored the touchdown.
You sure did, Glenn.
He's not my dad.
Technically, you don't really have one of those anymore, so you could be in the market for a new one. But Quagmire would take anyone else as his dad before he saw Brian in that way. This eventually leads to Ida and Brian calling it quits for the sake of Quagmire's sanity, which is probably the right call, all things considered. Brian's time as Quagmire's not dad was short-lived, but if there was any way it could have possibly been shorter, Quagmire would have loved to have had that outcome.
So is my dog still your dad?
No.
But Brian isn't always willingly thrown into a parental position, and sometimes it's forced upon him when a baby decides to impregnate himself with his DNA, like in Stewie is Enceinte.
That's how Brian and I are going to improve our relationship. We're going to have a baby.
Not just any baby, but an out-of-wedlock, tricked into having it against the partner's wishes baby. Those are the ones that always turn out right in the end. So, using his latest invention and some of Brian's DNA, Stewie successfully manages to impregnate himself. And it didn't even take all that gross bumpin' uglies that adults do.
Brian, we're pregnant. Oh my God! And in 18 years, he's going to move away.
I don't know, this baby's already giving 30-year-olds still living in the basement vibes. Because who are we kidding? Stewie will be a complete pushover for the kid, and Brian will be drinking himself to death wishing he never made friends with a genius baby.
People are gonna think I with a male baby and then got him pregnant.
Oh, thank you for finding a way to make it sound horrible.
No problem, it actually took little to no effort at all. So obviously Brian wants nothing to do with this whole ordeal, but that is his DNA inside Stewie, so he is kinda responsible for this baby in some weird, nightmarish way. And parenting starts well before the baby is even here, so Stewie tries to make sure Brian is present for every hurdle.
Oh, and while I'm pregnant, I'm going to need you to change the cat litter.
We don't have a cat.
Please don't fight me on this.
Leave it to cats to have that parasite in their poop that can harm your pregnancy. It really is them and nobody else with those animals. But Brian's willing to be a begrudgingly good sport and takes Stewie to his doctor's checkup. I know Dr. Hartman probably got his medical degree by cutting it off the back of a cereal box, but surely he can take one look at the situation and realize Stewie's missing some fundamental hardware to deliver this baby.
Your vagina seems to have a and two.
Oh, right. I sneezed real hard and all that came out.
Ah, well, that explains that. I can't tell if that was the more pressing question or the fact that he's 100% checking out a toddler right now. But at least the baby seems healthy. Isn't that a positive, Brian?
Now, Brian, did you have any questions for the doctor?
Yeah, are there a lot of stairs in this building?
What a caring father, making sure Stewie will have plenty of opportunities to get some exercise in. And he continues his train of support by joining Stewie for a little baby clothes shopping. Which I guess is just normal clothes shopping for Stewie.
Look at how tiny all these clothes are. It's so adorable. I mean, what kind of feet can fit into these shoes?
Your feet!
Stewie wishes. These pregnancies probably made his feet swell up to a whole new shoe size. While Brian's busy in therapy after this whole ordeal, Stewie's probably going to be grinding to get back down to the size he wants. But what better way to remember this magical period of their lives than a pregnancy photo shoot? Assuming anyone actually wants to remember this horrific experience.
Dad, can I get one of your head on the belly?
Oh, Dad. I just got emotional.
But all the fun and games have to end sometime, as the main event is right around the corner. Unfortunately, not every birth happens at a hospital. Sometimes it's on your couch, in your tub, or in your backseat, Men in Black style. For Stewie and Brian, it's going to be that last one, and the result is going to be just as otherworldly as that squid baby.
There's more! And they're coming out of everywhere! Ah, kill me! This hurts too much! Holy!
And now Stewie and Brian have 7 things. Abominations sounds too harsh, but babies also sounds too generous. See, this is the risk of IVF. Stewie really should have read up on it more before stealing Brian's DNA. But maybe this entire nightmare can have somewhat of a positive outcome as somewhat of a redemption for Brian and his past failures.
You do have a son that you were never there for. This is your opportunity to do things differently.
Oh, maybe you're right.
Trust me, this situation couldn't be more different. But if we're using this moment as proof of Brian's fatherly abilities, it turns out that not being near Dylan may have been just the thing for his son's health, because these kids are dropping like flies.
I don't even have a job.
Well, you better get one, and not writing, a real job.
Eventually, they end up with only 4 children and at their wits' end. They both realize that neither of them are really cut out to be parents right now and decide to just give the remaining babies to the pound. Unironically, probably the best course of action for those kids. It's either that or getting run over by a lawnmower while the parents' backs are turned. This is the right level of parental neglect that may just save their lives.
How attached to them are you?
Not at all.
Yeah, me either.
But Brian and Stewie have had some success at parenting in the past, as the two teamed up to bring some order to the house while Peter and Lois are away in North by North Quahog.
Now remember, kids, Brian is in charge while your father and I are out at Cape Cod.
I'll take good care of them, Lois. You guys have a good time.
Never understood what it was about Brian that made Lois think he'd be a good babysitter. Is it because he talks like he's 40 despite being 7? I'm only 3 years old and I can do that too. Do not put any children in my care. They will be returned to you with their sense of humor absolutely ruined.
You're the only one here to change me. What do you think of that?
I'm not gonna change you.
What?
I said I'm not gonna change you.
This is a standoff you're not going to want to win, Brian. You may like to eat it, but nobody enjoys the smell of poop for too long. Trust me, I've been on some weird subreddits that back this theory up. The only thing more unbearable than an unchanged diaper, though, is 2 teenagers who won't stop being annoying.
I swear to God, these kids are gonna make me put a bullet through my head.
Well, if I was in charge, we wouldn't be having this problem.
So it sounds like the only way to get a hold of these kids is for Brian and Stewie to form some kind of domestic partnership. Not one ordained by the state, but one that makes you go, oh, those 2 guys are roommates. And then you go, why are a dog and a baby the head of this household? That's your sign that you thought too hard about all this. But it's clear Brian needs Stewie's help because that backbone is made out of wet paper.
Chris, give Meg her hat.
I don't have to listen to you. You're a dog. You don't have a soul.
And a little push from Stewie gets those kids to finally sit down and shut up. And he didn't even have to grab the belt. See, violence isn't always the answer. Try screaming at people first, and if that doesn't work, then go for the violence.
Raise your voice to them.
Hey, knock it off!
Now that the 2 of them have a better grasp on parenting, they can start taking on the whole spectrum of being a parent, like chaperoning a school dance. You're the guard between simple grind dancing and teenage pregnancy, and the role should be taken as seriously as a heart attack.
Oh, how I envy them, dog. They've got their whole lives ahead of them.
Well, unless you're Chris, whose future may have just been put into jeopardy after he's caught drinking alcohol in the bathroom. And not the good kind of jeopardy where you think you're fairly smart until you get all the questions wrong in an episode.
Did you think you were cool? Did you think you were grown up?
I didn't actually drink any of it.
Well, just being in the same room as alcohol is dangerous enough. Did you know you can get contact drunk by just being in the same room as it? I think. Probably. Anyway, teenage drinking is no laughing matter, and Brian and Stewie need to be sure they curb it immediately.
You're grounded, Chris.
Oh, come on, that sucks.
Do you want us to pull over?
I don't care what you do.
Wrong answer. You're never too old to be spanked. Although there is probably an age window where you might start to like it, so as long as you're outside that window, you're gonna get it.
If your teachers ask about your bruises, what do you tell them?
I got hit by a baseball.
Multiple times? I don't know who taught you how to catch, Chris, but that is not the optimal way. At least the makeshift parents have some feelings of regret over it. Not enough to make them wish they didn't do it, but you know, having those thoughts still means you're a good person and not an abusive brute, right?
Do you think we were too hard on Chris tonight?
What? Oh God, no. No, I don't think so.
But they do try to be good parents because Jake Tucker was the one who brought the alcohol in the first place, yet Chris is the one taking the fall for it. It's a lot harder to stand up to other parents than their kids, but Brian and Stewie are brave enough to do it.
It seems your son Jake had some vodka at the school dance, and Chris got blamed for it.
Not even one of the good alcohols to get caught with, just the terrible potato water. Tom obviously disregards the fact that his mutant son could have done that, so Brian and Stewie decide to put the parenting stuff to the side and go full criminal. Gotta break a few laws to make a life lesson omelet after all.
Let's plant in his locker.
Oh my God, that's a great idea.
Yeah, thought you'd like that.
So it seems like Brian actually does have the capacity to be a halfway decent parent, he just needs a strong partner by his side to see him through it. I guess a British baby will have to do. But more often than not, Brian is usually in more of a parental figure role for Stewie, especially when Stewie changes his DNA to turn him into a non-genius baby in Baby Stewie.
Any last words before I go in? Yeah, don't you think you're being a little dramatic? Yes, thank you.
So in an effort to remove the Griffin genes that might make him grow up to be an idiot, Stewie accidentally removes his incredible intelligence and reverts to a normal, factory settings baby. Finally, Brian and Stewie can be on the same intellectual level, except both of them still need their poops cleaned up for them.
Did it work?
Doggy, big doggy.
Well, it very clearly made him an idiot. Brian is a medium-sized dog, not a big-sized dog. You'd think this kid was just born roughly a year ago or something. But now Stewie's more or less a normal baby, which means that they're no longer hanging out as 2 friends. They're now a toddler and a begrudged supervisor forced into it because the 2 parents could not care less after having the 3rd kid.
Would you like to hear tonight's specials? That was loud.
Whoever keeps giving their kids silverware at the table is a true menace to society. You'd think these babies have no dexterity, but I've seen these kids throw silverware at people like a trained knife thrower. It's impressive, but somebody's definitely losing an eye at some point.
Brian, I need your help with Stewie on the flight.
Sure, no problem.
The iPad's broken.
No, yeah, that's kind of the correct reaction. iPads are actual brain cell killing devices in the hands of a child, but man, did they get them to be quiet. It's the closest thing you can get to pumping them full of Benadryl before a flight without having Child Protective Services called on you, and Brian's about to find out the hard way how valuable those things can be.
Brian face! Brian face!
Yep.
Brian face!
Only a few more now.
Shouting fire on the plane probably would have been less disruptive than this. Luckily, all that blabbering and slapping does tucker the little guy out, which gives Brian the chance to flex just how good of a parental figure he is.
They have very little control in their lives, so the key, and I mean key.
It's quite honorable of him to just be smiling through the pain like that. If I were him, I'd be finding out just how quickly I can get the emergency exit doors to open. But look on the bright side, now Brian has quite the in-flight snack to partake in.
Hi, can I get some of those tiny square napkins? Yeah, like the most you're allowed to give.
And Brian also very quickly learns why so many people opt to have child-free weddings. Hearing babies cry and blabber isn't exactly the end of the world, but it can kinda get in the way of moments of silence for dead family members. Best be as respectful as possible unless you want this to become a haunted wedding.
Poo-poo!
No, we do not touch poo-poo in this family. We do not touch poo-poo.
Unless you're putting it in a thin plastic bag, or you're having it for a nice little snack. These are Brian's rules, obviously. I'm just repeating them back. But touching poop during a wedding ceremony probably doesn't fall into either one of those instances. But I also am not familiar with all the different wedding traditions there are, so who knows, maybe this is a thing.
No bubbles. You lost the bubbles.
Yes, bubbles!
Maybe you can earn them back, but as far as I'm concerned, you've lost the bubbles.
So this parenting thing is way too tiring for Brian, so he decides to do the responsible thing, throwing the baby into a device and pressing all the buttons until something good happens. Though most of the time the devices look like this, Brian's more interested in the gene splicing ones.
Whoops. Edit, undo.
Uh-oh. Edit, redo.
That's one of those uncomfortable truths about parenthood. You just end up disfiguring and transforming your kid, and you might not really realize you're doing it. Unless, of course, you're pressing the disfigure and transform button, as Brian seems to be doing.
No.
Brian, you did it!
No. Oh, sorry.
It's clear Brian is in way over his head, so he does what any well-meaning parent would do. Go back in time and stop the baby from ever trying to alter his DNA. Being intellectually emasculated by a baby suddenly doesn't sound so bad after spending time with an actual baby. But while Brian isn't technically considered Stewie's parent, he is expected to be the responsible one between the two. That includes waking Stewie up from his tanning bed session in the Tan Aquatic with Steve Zissou. But we didn't say this was an example of one of Brian's good parental moments.
What are you doing?
Gotta keep the tan up. It's not a skin color, it's a lifestyle, Brian.
So Stewie decides to get into tanning. Like, really get into tanning. It's really just a speed run to see how quickly you can make yourself look like an old leathery couch. It requires a lot of time being spent in the tanning bed, but not too much. That's where Brian comes in, as Stewie requests that he pull him out after a certain amount of time.
Hey, wake me up in 15, will you, babe?
Fine.
Now, did he mean in 15 minutes, hours, days? He really should have been more specific, so I imagine he can't put a ton of blame on Brian due to these mixed messages.
Oh crap, Stewie!
And that little stint in the machine has left Stewie as red and crisp as a fresh lobster tail. See, the issue here is that Brian should have put his parental foot down and made him not get into this machine. You gotta wait until you're a little bit older before you're allowed to willingly destroy your body. Until then, it's the parent's job.
Hey, buddy. I was just coming to tell you it's time to get out.
I've been in there for 6.5 hours, you son of a...
And an important part of being a parental figure to a child is to make sure you don't stifle their interest or their creativity, but that's exactly what Brian does out of jealousy in Brian's play, and it really comes back to bite him on the butt.
Wow, I'm so excited for Brian.
Remember, kids, if it's terrible, at the end we all say, "You did it."
So Brian ends up writing and producing a play in Quahog, and it actually manages to be a pretty big hit. No surprise, given the average IQ in this town probably doesn't even come near double digits. You could play Jenga on stage and it would probably still get a standing ovation.
The highest praise goes to playwright Brian Griffin for his hilarious and insightful look into modern relationships.
And it's this little stint of success that actually motivates Stewie to pick up the pen and write a play of his own. I guess if Stewie had to try and emulate one thing about Brian, this wouldn't be the worst one. The house has enough drunks in it as is.
I want to write a play.
Oh, that's cute, Stewie. Maybe someday.
No, I'm gonna write a play. I can do lots of things.
Except use the toilet. That's one of those things more confounding than quantum mechanics and high art. And Stewie makes good on his word and actually writes the play in what seems like days, leaving it for Brian to read. Big mistake. This was the first shot of happiness Brian has felt in forever, and reading something actually good drives Brian off the deep end.
My God. It's miraculous.
And when Stewie comes to Brian looking for feedback, Brian can't bring himself to admit it's better than anything he's ever written. He can't even muster a, "yeah, it's pretty good." Just go straight for the jugular with a "don't quit your day job, kid."
It wasn't good.
Oh no, really? Oh, I worked so hard on it.
How can you feel so good about crushing a kid's dreams like that? Even if it did suck, have you ever heard of constructive criticism? No, of course not, because any criticism you've ever gotten has been boiled down to haters and trolls coming for your art. Wait, maybe that was me. But Brian figures Stewie's play is such a threat that he tries to dispose of it before he can submit it to anything.
Well, that's interesting, Brian, because I found this buried in the backyard next to your soup bone.
Well, the jig is up. Let this be your friendly reminder to lift up children in the arts, even if their art is destined to be better than yours. Those brats. I mean, yay for childhood creativity. But even when no kids are involved, Brian still can't really be trusted to handle certain parental duties. Sometimes something as simple as taking a turkey out of the oven proves to be too difficult, as seen in A Very Special Family Guy Freaking Christmas.
Brian, my turkey's in the oven. Can you turn it off at 3?
No problem.
Well, big problem actually. She didn't specify whether she meant 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. You could use common sense for this one, but all common sense went out the window with enough glasses of Christmas eggnog. Luckily, Lois had enough thought to set a timer.
If I was an oven mitt.
You'd probably have been a better fit for this task. But I guess we can't blame Brian too much for ruining the turkey, as he has to deal with the slightly bigger problem of nearly letting the house burn down. Making dinner and not letting the house be destroyed is just too much responsibility for one little doggy. But it's not like Peter's made it any easier.
Damn it, Peter!
Brian does get on top of the fire though, turning the house into a winter wonderland. Or what you'd see if you hit a guy's college dorm room with a blacklight. But during all that mess, he forgot he'd left a turkey to burn in the oven. I think this might have just been a ploy to have the turkey all to himself. You could burn it, drop it in a sewer, and pee on it, and Brian would still probably eat it.
Turkey!
So I think the moral of this whole story is just that Brian probably can't be left alone at home by himself. If a house fire and a ruined Christmas dinner are happening under his watch, maybe he's not the best choice for watching Stewie after all. But even when Brian isn't even there, he's still kind of feeling as a somewhat parental figure. This can be seen in Play It Again, Brian, where Stewie calls him while Herbert is babysitting and can't see the obvious signs of danger the kids are in.
I got a question for you. Herbert and I are playing Scattergories. Would you count NyQuil as a beverage?
Maybe if you were a prolific rapper, but I'm not so sure Stewie or Herbert fit that description. This is a pretty innocuous question to the untrained eye, but we all know what Herbert's deal is, and why he considers a medicine meant to make children go to sleep a thing you can just drink whenever. I smell an uncomfortable situation, but I guess Brian's trademark great sense of smell doesn't work over the phone.
Hey Brian, another Scattergories question. The category is type of pet. Herbert put Cambodian. That's not right, right?
Not in the slightest. And it's not right that the kids got left home alone with a freak like that. I guess this is more of an attention failing on Peter and Lois's part, but Brian should have realized something was way off just based on these two answers. I guess when you're too busy trying to sleep with your best friend's wife, things just kind of slip through the cracks. And despite how much Brian wants to seem like the responsible voice of reason of the family, when he's faced with an actual moment to step in and parent someone out of a bad place, he acts like he couldn't care less and barely legal.
So, Meg? How was school?
Look, we get it. Meg is dramatic and a habitual overreactor. But have you seen this girl's life? I think crying all the time is pretty warranted in this case. And all Meg really needs here is a comforting shoulder to cry on, but Brian may as well be made out of spikes and used needles.
I'm so fat and gross!
Oh.
I should just...
Oh.
Great talking someone down from a ledge technique you got there, Brian. Again, it isn't technically Brian's place to be handling these big dramatic life moments. Most of his responsibilities just boil down to not peeing in the house and barking at the mailman. But Brian wants to act like so much more than that, but when it comes to being an actual guardian, he just doesn't have the skills.
I'm gonna... because no one will go with me!
Oh.
And Brian's failure as a guardian has completely upended plans on multiple occasions, but one of the most famous instances was when he let his vices ruin a simple flight home for him and Stewie in Road to Rhode Island.
Why don't I fly out to Palm Springs and pick up Stewie?
Really?
Yeah, a trip like this is just what I need to clear my head.
So Brian volunteers to travel across the country to pick up Stewie from his grandparents, something that on paper seems pretty easy. Unless you're in the middle of a whole mental crisis at the moment, which Brian just so happens to be in. They need to start checking people for that in TSA alongside weapons and dangerous 3.5-ounce shampoo bottles. But Brian at least makes it down there, which Stewie isn't too happy about.
That idiot Slatton sent the dog? Well, this is... Oh, don't even get me started.
Yeah, this was the early stages of their relationship before they became best friends. Brian was just the family dog, and if this entire video is any indication, that's probably the role he should have stayed in. Because when they end up getting to the airport, Brian gets way too drunk.
I think you've had about enough.
Well, I think you're wrong, you increasingly attractive-looking woman.
And because of that, Brian and Stewie end up missing their flight. And did we mention he left a baby unattended in the airport? It's really just one moral failing after another with this guy. Can't go through the airport, can't be trusted with children. If there's any ladies watching this, maybe think twice before wanting to procreate with this guy. I don't think this is something you should have even thought about once.
Alright, I just have a speech impediment. And a stomach virus.
But what do you think? Is Brian an actual bad parent, or should he not even be considered one at all? Let us know down in the comments, and if you liked this video and want to see more great Family Guy videos, be sure to leave us a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.